But first at 5, a Target 12 investigators exclusive, tough to terminate. A Providence school teacher fired for cause in 2006. So why was he back on the city payroll last year?
And we've discovered a judge's ruling means school districts may have to pay terminated teachers a full year's salary if the district misses a key deadline. Target 12 investigator Tim White is here now with the exclusive details.
Even if you don't live in Providence, this case impacts your school district. In fact, it even pushed a North Kingstown superintendent to fire a teacher before a key deadline to avoid a potential legal pitfall.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
In a February meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee,
Approval of termination of tenured NEA and K teacher.
the superintendent asked the school board to fire a teacher who he says refused to give the park exam. An attorney for the school committee told them they had to act fast.
She has to be notified before March 1st.
With that advice in mind, the school committee voted to begin the termination process. The move happening because of a case out of Providence that has spanned nearly a decade.
There was various conduct that we found offensive.
In 2006, the Providence School Department fired Mount Pleasant High School math teacher Bernard McCrank for what they say were several examples of misconduct. After 6 years of hearings and appeals, a judge ultimately upheld the termination. But then Target 12 discovered this: McCrank's name on the 2015 city payroll, years after he was terminated, taking in $71,000 last year.
He was on the 2015 payroll after there was a settlement in the matter.
McCrank's lawyer declined to comment for this report, but Charles Ruggiero, an attorney for the Providence Public Schools, says the 2015 payment was to make good on a judge's ruling. The court found, though the firing was just, school officials terminated McCrank in September of 2006, missing a March 1st deadline of the previous year. So the city had to pay the teacher for an entire year he didn't work.
Say a teacher engages in some conduct which you would move to terminate in September of this particular school year. In order to have terminated that teacher, you would have had to have notified him or her before March 1 of last school year. So it's an impossible deadline to satisfy.
Is it a severance package?
This notification date is about due process. It's not about a severance package.
James Parisi is with Teachers Union Rhode Island AFT. He says the idea of the March 1st deadline is to give a teacher plenty of notice so they can try and improve and keep their job.
It's frequently the case where people would get negative evaluations or negative comments about their job performance. They would get a notice in February, but they would have a couple of months to work to show improvement before the final termination action is taken.
A bill proposed in the state Senate would eliminate the March 1st deadline for just cause teacher terminations, something Parisi says his union will oppose. Back to the North Kingstown case, the superintendent there tells me the teacher there may end up keeping her job if she gives the park exam this month. New at 6 o'clock, we check all 50 states and find Rhode Island is at the extreme end of the spectrum with these termination deadlines. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, Eyewitness News.
Tim will be back with those new details as this Target 12 investigators exclusive tough to terminate continues on Eyewitness News at 6. Covering more details in a Target 12 investigators exclusive tough to terminate.
New at 6, we've learned Rhode Island is a national standout when it comes to teacher termination deadlines. By state law, teachers have to be notified they're being let go by March 1st.
Our investigation finds only one other state has a deadline that early. Some school administrators say it can be a costly requirement for public schools.
Let's get right to Target 12 investigator Tim White with his exclusive findings.
The vast majority of school teachers are hardworking people that look out for their students, but some administrators say when they have to part ways with a tenured teacher, the system sets them up to fail. A Providence school teacher fired in 2006, but Target 12 discovered they reappeared on the 2015 Providence payroll. That's because a judge ruled the Providence School Department missed a March 1st teacher termination deadline. So the cash-strapped school district had to pay that teacher more than $70,000 for an entire year he didn't work. Providence City Attorney Charles Ruggiero says that case has impacted for-cause termination actions for every school district in the state.
Any subsequent termination by any school committee which doesn't adhere to the March 1 notification deadline will result in a statutory severance for a teacher.
We wanted to know how Rhode Island compares to other states. We found Rhode Island has the earliest deadline in New England. Massachusetts, for example, doesn't have a termination deadline for tenured teachers. And a 2014 study by policy group Education Commission of the States found Rhode Island ties West Virginia for the earliest deadline in the country. Why is this important? Well, some school administrators will tell you because time is money. The way Rhode Island law is set up, if a teacher is fired on March 2nd, just one day past the deadline, the school district will have to pay that teacher the entire next year.
There's a strong belief on our hand that people who are being considered to be let go ought to have a period of time where they can prove themselves.
James Parisi is with Rhode Island Teachers Union, AFT. He says not only should teachers be given time to improve to potentially save their job, the March 1st law helps prevent mass terminations like we saw in Central Falls in 2010.
The March 1 date gives great job security for public school teachers who've suffered under mass terminations here in this state within this past decade.
A bill pending in the state Senate would do away with the March 1st deadline, but Parisi tells me the unions will fight to prevent that from becoming law. With the Target 12 investigators, Tim White, Eyewitness News.